Good morning and welcome in 24 hours after first advertised to this week's Back to Basics video. As you can tell, my brain is not quite fully functioning. I just seem to be finding it almost impossible to shake off this silly cold, but we will go with it. And apologies if it takes me a little while to get the words out of my head, from my head, out of my mouth, but we will do our best. I have a glass of water on standby, and today we're going to be talking about ribbons and embellishments, morning div, and sort of fancy bits. Because it's not very long after we start our basic stamping and putting cards together, before we're wanting to add in a little bit of foof, or a bit of bling, a bit of something pretty. So I thought we'd have a little bit of a chat this morning about the different sorts of ribbons and embellishments there are. So I've got my catalogue open in front of me because obviously I haven't introduced myself. My name is Helen Jennings. I am a Stampin' Up demonstrator, and so the focus of my crafting and my business is all around the goodies that I can get from the Stampin' Up catalogue. But it gives us a general idea of the sort of embellishments and things that are out there. So there's all sorts of different here. I've got some in real life to show you in a minute. We've got things like washi tapes, and we've got twines and threads and all of those sorts of things. We've got lots and lots of different ribbons in lots of colours, and obviously being Stampin' Up, they are all coordinating, so you'll know which ribbon goes with which paper and cardstock and things, because they're all labelled in terms of colour. And that's the whole idea, is that you've got that coordination, and that coordination does thread through to all these little embellishments and things. And so there's little sequins and dots and metallic embellishments, sort of 3D embellishments. We've got some cork embellishments. We've got little furry flower inners, all sorts of things that you can add on to your cards and your projects, just to make them that bit, give them that little bit more zing, a little bit something else. So let's move this to one side and have a little look at what I've got in my basket. Of course, those are the things that are in the annual catalogue that we have. There are more things still in the autumn winter ones, so things that are especially for Christmas. So let's unpack my basket here and have a little look at some of the things that I've got. If I'll lay them out on my desk, I think, and then put them back in my basket as we've talked about them. So let's get out all these little pots. Got lots of little pots of goodies here. We're going to need that later. Doilies and lots of sticky on type things, and I think sticky on type things is where we will start. So oh, no, not quite emptied my chair. I've got more behind me. I've got a box full of ribbon behind me, but we'll look at that in a minute as well. So the very basic. So if you're starting from sort of the ground upwards and have absolutely nothing in your stash, then the first thing that you're going to want is probably some basic rhinestones. These are the things that just add in a little bit of zing to your project. Let me give you a flash of a card that I'm going to be using in a class tomorrow, and as you can see, there's some little rhinestones in the background just there, just to give it a little bit of sparkle. So basic rhinestones are a basic. We do basic rhinestones and we do basic pearls. So I'm going to need those in a minute. Where's the pearls? Here they are. And there's some basic pearls. So basic rhinestones and basic pearls. Then you start getting fancy, because we've got some different coloured sort of rhinestones. Oh, the dog's got in on that one. He does like to get in where he can. He's not classed as an embellishment as much as he'd like to be. his fur is not an official embellishment. So these ones are the Noble Peacock rhinestones. So these are the Noble Peacock ones. We've also got some somewhere that are Christmassy colours. So really pretty greens and purples and things there. So coloured rhinestones. And we've got a little enamel dots. So these are sort of got a 3D domed effect on them. We've got other little enamel shapes, so these go with the dinosaur set. We have sequins that are self-adhesive, so these ones are just ready for you to peel off and stick on. These are epoxy drops, I don't know if you can see those little hearts, so they just add a little bit of shine. And we'll perhaps come back to those in a minute. We've got these metallic elements and these faceted gems. So lots and lots of things. Here's some more faceted dots. Lots and lots of things you can just simply pick up with your pokey tool and stick on to your project. And they just add that little bit of something. You don't need masses of them. You don't need many of them. One or two strategically placed can just add a little bit of something to your project. Really pretty. So we use those quite frequently. What else have I got here? I've got some doilies. So these are really pretty. So these are the sort of thing that you don't necessarily even need to use a whole one. You might use half a doily sticking out from underneath a piece of card mat or something, or cut it in quarters and have little bits tucked in corners peeking out. And these particular doilies are pearlised on one side and plain on the other. So the plain side you can then sponge and add colour to, or spritz, or you can have the sort of shiny pearly side that is really pretty. So doilies. We have lots of little things in pots. So these are anchors and ship's wheels. So these are metallic elements that you can either tie on. You can tie something through that little hole, or use glue dots to tie them on. These are particularly Christmassy ones. We have some jingly bells. We have ordinary sequins. So you can pop these in shaker cards. You can stick them with a little spot of glue individually onto the front of projects. More metallic leaves, if you were doing something autumny. These are these little fun little furry flower inners. Lots of little things just to add a little bit more texture, a little bit more detail. These are brads that you might want to use to attach something if you wanted it to spin, or if it was vellum that's difficult to stick. Cork embellishments. So again, another texture. These are fun for your Halloween projects. Googly eyes, but different coloured googly eyes. And then some more little sequins. These are the snowflake sequins. Really pretty. So lots of little things in pots that you can stick on with spots of glue, or glue dots, just to add a little bit of something to your projects. We've also been having these boxes. So this is the Christmas snowman one that's got like coal and noses and arms in that sort of epoxy type stickers. You've got some felt embellishments there, hats and scarves and gloves, some washi tape, some little snowballs. So lots of fun little things that you can just add on to cards to give them a different element. This is one that went with the art suite in the catalogue, and this one again has felt embellishments with that look like they're sort of stitched flowers and things, some little charms, some little paper clips, some coloured twine. Lots and lots of different things to add into your projects. Washi tape. Washi tape is fabulous. Hi Glenda. Lovely to have you joining us from Oz. Hello Sarah. Some Stampin' Up washi tape. This is really nice washi tape. This sort of washi tape that just has it can have nice sort of grungy effects on projects, because it's just got that writing on, so you can just add in little bits of that. This one's got sort of like stitching on it, a nice stripy one. And then this particular washi tape is beautiful because this one is lots and lots of petals. So each individual petal you can build up into a flower, or just use those petals as they are. So some gorgeous washi tapes, and washi tape you can just tear a little bit off, stick it down. Yep, they're really lovely to add just a little bit of something to projects. And then in front of me I have a collection of twines and things. So this is there's a little pack of 3 in this sort of crumb cake, mint macaron, and I think the other colour is Calypso Coral, if I remember right. Let me just flick back in my catalogue and have a look. Mint macaron, crumb cake, grapefruit grove and blackberry bliss. I haven't got the other 2 colours, I've used those up, but this is a really quite thick twine. Really nice for adding a bit of detail onto your projects. We've got this nice stripy Sahara sand and Night of Navy twine. Good old basic white, whisper white twine, and we're going to come back to that in a minute. Good old linen thread, I use this a lot. Fabulous for just adding a little bit of something to your projects. The metallic threads, we've got the silver and we've got the pink. But just to add a little bit of twirl of something into your projects, and it's amazing what difference they make. And then we have ribbons. So behind me is a whole box full of different ribbons of all sorts of things. So we've got sort of shiny, satiny ribbons. We've got more sort of Hessian ribbons. We've got this ribbon here that you can pull this bottom thread out of to make tassels. So there are, you can either have it as it is, or you can pull the bottom thread out and it will tassel. Big wide ribbons, lace, ribbons that say Merry Christmas, black ribbon with shiny bits in. There's just so many different ribbons there, leaves, all sorts of different textures, different colours. Some have got sparkle in, something for every project. So we really love our embellishments and things. But let's look and talk about, so there's some of the embellishments that you can get your hands on, and obviously those are the embellishments we've got. It's right, I'm looking, my laptop tells me that this video has been paused. I'm not aware that I've paused it, so I'm just having a quick look to make sure that's okay. I will carry on as if it isn't paused, and if that seems to be a problem later, we will I will go back to it, but I think thank you, Glenda. Yes, it is a lot of ribbons. You're obviously still seeing me. That's absolutely fine. Okay, so ribbons and twines and things. So let's talk about attaching them. So we use them because we want to add a little bit of prettiness to our projects and things. But how do we actually attach them to our projects? Now, when it comes to ribbon, let me grab, let's see, what ribbon shall we have? I think we'll have oh, decisions. See, all I'm doing is showing it to you, and I still can't decide what ribbon I want. Let's just come with this sort of nice Sahara stand and white striped ribbon. So how would I attach that to a card base? So we're going to imagine that this is our card mat that we are then going to stick on to the front of a card. Now what I tend to do is I will just take a piece of ribbon, I will snip it off. Part of this is because I don't like to waste ribbon, and part of it is to make my life easier. So let's just snip off that piece of ribbon, and I'm going to take some tear and tape. Now, as with all things, what happens on the back of a mat that's then going to be stuck down to a front of a card stays on the back of a mat. Nobody is ever going to be any the wiser unless they start deconstructing your card. So I'm going to take a piece of double-sided tape and stick it down one side. It could just be sellotape or something like that, some sort of sticky tape. because we're not going to peel the backing off, we're just using it to hold it down. So now we have our piece of ribbon going around the front, anchored on the back. Now if I'm going to add a bow to that, so if I was going to tie a bow with this, doom, doom, doom. It's not going to be the best bow in the world because it's quick and on the hoof, but that's not bad for quick and on the hoof. Now if I was going to attach a bow to this, I would simply tie a separate bow like this, and then I would use a glue dot and stick it where I wanted it to go. So I would wrap my ribbon around, stick it, and then I would do a separate bow and stick it on with a glue dot. Now I don't always do bows. The other thing I would often do with that is I will slip another piece of ribbon underneath it and simply tie a knot. So if you're not into bows, if tying bows is your nemesis, then don't. There we go. Let's simply snip the end of that and snip the end of that. And the nice thing about having a knot like that on a piece of card is you can decide you want it a bit further over and just slip it over. So there we are, we have a nice knot, and we've got it laying that way. I could have sort of done it so that it's sticking up that way. Still a little bit frayed on that edge, but that's fine, we're just having a bit of a play. So that again is just that piece of ribbon wrapped around, stuck down the back, and a knot tied across it. So whether I'm tying a knot or whether I'm doing a bow, yeah, Sarah, you just want a whole load of bows tied for you, don't you? Actually, we had last Christmas at one of the groups I did, we had a secret Santa, and the idea was that you made something yourself, you know, and it was decorate a jar. That's what we did. We did decorate a jar. So the challenge was you had to decorate a jar and you had to put your secret Santa gift in your jar. So what I did was I decorated a jar and I filled it with bows that I'd already tied out of oddments of ribbon that I'd got, and that was very well received. So there you are, Sarah, that's what you need. You need a jar of pre-tied bows of varying sorts that you can just pick out and stick on your projects. So there we go. So that is wrapping a ribbon round and then tying a knot, or using a glue dot to stick your ribbon on. The other challenge, so if I just wanted to stick a piece of ribbon, I didn't want it to go the whole way across, I just wanted a piece that was going to stick part way across, you could either put down a little strip of double-sided tape. Yeah, great idea for if you've got lots of excess ribbon and you've got a crafty friends. Yes, give them a bow full of, a jar full of pre-tied bows. Sit in front of the telly and tie them all. I do have things like bow makers as well in my box that I take out to classes, so they're always available. Right, so that little bit of ribbon, I've just put a couple of glue dots on. It's not very pretty, I've not trimmed it very well, but that is just adding it to the front of my card using a couple of glue dots. As I say, you could also put some double-sided tape down there. Another little challenge we get sometimes is if we wanted to wrap a piece of twine around the entire front of this card. Now this isn't my tip. Another demonstrator I saw do this, but it is a fabulous idea, so I will share it with you just as it was shared with me. So if you've got a card like this, along this spine just here, get yourself a little hole punch of some sort, and you don't need a very big snip. You just need a little nick to come out of the side of that card. You see that little nick in there. And then once you've got your little nick in your card, you can thread through. Let's use the end of my scissors just to poke that through. And this was just a genius tip that I saw, and it's like, that is just... why hadn't I not thought of that? That is just genius. So there we go, a bit of twine wrapped around. Let's give that a bit of a bow. So you've then got your twine going through the edge of your card, but once you've actually thread your twine through and attached it, your little nick in the side of your card really isn't, that notice isn't really noticeable. It's only if you really, really scrutinise it that would you see it. So that's a really clever tip for adding some twine and things on. So there we go, a little bit of twine wrapped around a card. So that's attaching our ribbons and our twines to our card. The other thing I wanted to share with you is the fact that you can often colour these things. So if you have got, here I've got a dark rich raspberry stamping blend. So if I wanted to make a little collection of things that matched my card that is going to be in rich raspberry, I can use my stamping blends to colour things because they are permanent markers. So here I've got a piece of basic white baker's twine. I've got a little piece of the gold shimmery ribbon that's going to be coming out with the Christmas Time Is Here suite that comes out at the beginning of 1st of November. It goes live to customers. And I've got some basic rhinestones. So let's take the brush end of my dark rich raspberry blend and let's colour our ribbon. And there we are, we have a piece of dark rich raspberry ribbon. Let's take our thread. Obviously you want something underneath this because it is going to leave marks on the table underneath it. And you might find with threads particularly that you need to turn them over because when you come to tie it you'll want both sides coloured. But there's a general idea. There's some rich raspberry thread, and then let's have a rich raspberry and obviously sitting on its thing it looks quite messy, but when we lift that off come here little gem, stop tying around. So there we are, we've got a little coloured gem, we've got some coloured twine, and we've got some coloured ribbon, all coordinating, ready to go on our project. So if you haven't got the colour that you want in your stash, then just get out your blends or any alcohol markers, any alcohol based markers, get those out. And so the Stampin' Blends markers, Glenda, no, you can't refill these because these are, so your ink refills are actually a water-based ink, so you can refill your Stampin' Right markers because they take the same ink as your ink pads. So they are the water-based classic ink in both your Stampin' Right markers and in your ink pads. The Stampin' Blends are an alcohol-based marker, so they are a different mix altogether. So no, these unfortunately aren't refillable. They are sort of consumable, so once one colour has run out, which is why you can buy them individually, which is why they're not just sold in pairs, so that if my dark rich raspberry had run out but my light rich raspberry was still going strong, I just can replace my dark one. Yeah, so it's a different mix altogether. So yeah, so we're not able to refill the alcohol markers. I would imagine that it's probably a little bit difficult to get the mix to stay stable as well because it's alcohol based. Unless you had it really, really well screwed down, it would just evaporate, I would think. So it probably, at the end of the day, it is as easy just to say, okay, I just need to get a new marker. So got nice squidges on there. So lots and lots of embellishments, lots of things to stick on and to make your projects pretty. Lots of different ways to attach your ribbon. So whether you're going to tie a knot, whether you're going to stick a bow on, just attach your ribbon at the back like this rather than wrapping it all the way around and then tying a bow. You actually get a nicer finish on your bow if you just have a a flat back, and you've then attached your knot or your ribbon on the top. Use some glue dots, use that little idea of nicking a hole in the side of your card base to thread your thread through if you want it to go all the way around a card base. And don't forget that with lots of our embellishments and things, if it's not the colour you want, then just get out your stamping blends and colour them. The other thing you can colour them with, so you can colour these, you would have been able to colour your ink or your twine, you would be able to use your ink refill bottles to do that. So you can sort of make up a solution and put a whole reel of Whisper White thread, you know, unravel it and put it in a jar of a solution of ink refill and water, and then leave overnight to colour entire reel if that's what you wanted to do, in terms of if you were doing a lot of projects and you wanted a uniformed coloured twine to go with them and that you hadn't got one, you can do that. I've seen somebody, particularly with the white spotted tulle ribbon, that they've taken sort of half a reel and coloured it one colour and another half a reel and coloured it another, so they've ended up with lots and lots of different coloured dotty ribbons, which is really pretty. So yes, you can colour those as well with your ink refills. So I hope that's been helpful, a little insight into some of our embellishments and how we can use them, and tricks and tips for using them. We will be back next week. I will actually be back later today with my normal Facebook Live, when we're going to be making some more things with those cute little snowmen, and then I shall be back next week with the Back to Basics video, and at this point in time it will be an exciting revelation for all of us as to what I'm doing, because I can't remember, but I will have remembered by next Wednesday morning. So do come and join me next Wednesday morning when we will be doing another Back to Basics video. So have a lovely, lovely day.